I give you my blood. I give you my life. Turn, O wheel, and transport him to a night of moonlight, to humanity's very dusk.
It's been a few months since Nintendo and From Software revealed their new game and IP, the DuskBloods, which is currently a Switch 2 exclusive. The DuskBloods is an 8-player online-only game that is PVPVE, meaning it's player versus environment. This means players will duel with each other and enemies, but will also team up to fight enemies and bosses together. This game is being directed by the man behind Dark Souls and Elden Ring. There was some info we got from an interview with director Hidetaka Miyazaki on Nintendo's website along with some screenshots months ago, but there's still so much more to be revealed about this game. We are going to take another look at all the info released so far and try to put some pieces together in this video. We'll take a look at why this game offering is going to be something very different from the studio. Let's take a closer look at the gameplay loop, and customization, as well as taking a closer look at all the playable characters, enemies, and bosses shown so far. The DuskBloods presents something that looks and sounds very familiar, yet is something that is going to be vastly different from Software's other games, and differs quite a bit even from their recent release, the multiplayer-only PvE Night Rain. One of the good things about DuskBloods being a PvPVE is that it won't run into some of the same issues that Night Rain had. Issues like playing with strangers on a team, only to have them drop out mid-game, and ultimately render your run dead. Server issues like constant disconnects is something we hope they will have sorted out by the time it releases. There's going to be some missions where you will team up with other players, like in Night Rain, but the penalty for other players dropping out is less severe. There are more players playing in a match in the DuskBloods, so if somehow the unlikely chance of everyone dropping out, you might still win the match by default and get the best rewards. The DuskBloods isn't going to be much of a Souls-like. It doesn't look like it's going to be based on the Souls or Elden Ring playstyle. They'll have pieces of the Soul games in there, like the Firekeeper, the fragmented storytelling, and the art and sound design. The gameplay, it seems, is going to be very different overall from what we have seen so far. The story of the DuskBloods takes place in a world on the edge of collapse during an event known as the Twilight of Humanity. A mystical force called First Blood has begun to flow. Supernatural beings known as the Bloodsworn are summoned from different eras in time and locations in the world to compete in a final hunt for this primordial essence, the First Blood. The Bloodsworn are vampiric-like figures, imbued with the special blood and are gifted with superhuman abilities and powers. Director Miyazaki has said that you're going to see your player perform actions that you've never seen in their games before. From this trailer, this is apparent, with one character using a jetpack to fly across the map, and another turning into a dinosaur. The footage shows varied styles of fighting, with magic, melee attacks, ranged attacks, and also special attacks. Everything is seemingly fair game in the DuskBloods. Miyazaki describes the combat in this game as a free-form combat approach, with gameplay that's dynamic and dramatic. In the trailer we can see some of this. We will have crazy mobility in this game. In Miyazaki's words, the players have unique superhuman abilities. Their actions are more dramatic than anything seen in their previous title. In their recent games like Elden Ring, they have added more mobility with jumps and jump attacks, as well as having a mount to ride. In Sekiro, you had faster movement with a cool grappling ability to get around. In Night Rain, we have seen some more dramatic action style mobility added to the Elden Ring moveset. In the DuskBloods, they are seemingly pushing mobility much further. So much so that I think the gameplay for the most part won't feel like a Souls game. You can sprint in the DuskBloods, which I'm guessing is closer to Night Rain's gameplay, but maybe even faster. There's also a super jump, and even a double jump, which is going to have the players soaring through the air while fighting. The maps and play areas look big enough to have the space needed for gameplay like that. Miyazaki says that all these new super moves will be dynamic and stress-free, and are complemented by each character's own unique weapons and ability, allowing for a wide range of creativity and variety. Let's take a look at the gunplay. We have had gunplay in Souls games like Bloodborne, but you weren't able to jump in the air and float down while shooting. Bloodborne, for the most part, was mostly short-range gunplay, but the DuskBloods features long-range attacks and shooter gameplay. Director Miyazaki looked at multiplayer shooter games like Escape from Tarkov for inspiration. He was also interested in how players in games like Escape from Tarkov could be a resource for gameplay. This would work well with the game's vampire theme. We have seen a player draining energy out of an enemy character already. Will killing another player let you be able to drain their energy too? Maybe taking experience points or rewards from the player character? Like taking a player's loot in other competitive shooter games. Miyazaki, in an interview on Nintendo's website, stated that players didn't have to always fight and could be opportunistic. Could other players sneak in and steal your kill and take their energy and rewards first? Next, let's take a look at the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop of the DuskBloods will start with the player in a hub world, where they will choose their character and customize them with the help of the game's firekeeper, or host. Once the player is set, they will go into a match. There will be different victory conditions in every match. Matches are generally last player standing, but Miyazaki says there are cases where the victory conditions can differ, like taking down a boss with other players, or the players finding themselves in other special circumstances. What he means by special circumstances, we're not sure. While acquiring First Blood is the goal, each player will be tasked with personal goals that are unique to their character. These are like side quests you do during a match. These goals or side quests will be determined by something they call roles, which are assigned through a player's blood and fate customization, which we will talk about in a moment. In some conditions, two players will be matched and both receive companionship tasks, so they have to seek to work together and help each other out in that match, while two other players may be matched and have to hunt down each other. Victory points are rewarded in every match. Whoever has the most victory points by the end of the match wins. You'll earn victory points by direct combat, but also by doing special objectives in a match, which may be altered by the character's chosen roles that we mentioned earlier. There will be victory points given to the player at the end of each match. You will be rewarded when you win a match, and will even receive some sort of reward when you lose too. The further you get, the more rewards you get. Rewards earned in matches allow you to upgrade your characters, including gear and potentially cosmetics. There will also be random occurrences during the match that may trigger an event, and this may affect every player's motives, as it will change the rewards in the course of the missions. Events can happen during matches that can potentially alter the course of a match, such as special enemy spawns and additional objectives with accompanying bonus rewards. It really seems like Miyazaki and crew are trying to make every DuskBloods match feel different, and are adding a lot of variety to keep things interesting for a while. Next, let's take a look at the customization and lore. Miyazaki says that there is deep character customization and fragmentary storytelling like his other games. But these two seem more deeply connected than ever before. Each of the 12 characters that you can choose to play can be customized to an extent. The customization will be done by altering what they call a blood history, which each character has, and this will give away pieces of info and lore about the world of the DuskBloods. The interesting thing is that the customization somehow alters your character's unfolding story as well, meaning that each character may have multiple stories and bits of lore unlocked depending on how you customize them. Miyazaki says analyzing and altering a character's blood history and fate allows players to customize all sorts of things, from their abilities, appearance, and inner characteristics, to the role they play in the world and relationships with other characters. Earlier we spoke a bit about roles that can alter your character's objectives and relationships with other players. These roles can be assigned to any character via blood customization. Filling out the blood history and fate seems like it will give you more incentive to play as different characters, to fill in all the stories and unique gameplay experiences they have to offer. There will be multiple maps and areas to play matches in. These areas look pretty massive, but also have some tight quarters to fight in. It looks like we will be fighting in some interesting and varied locations throughout different times in history. Matches span across Gothic Victorian cityscapes to early modern landscapes through to the closing years of the modern period. That includes this train station warehouse with cars from the 1930s and 40s parked outside. One stage features steampunk elements like this cool looking train from the near future. This area with the waterfalls looks like it's an Eastern themed area. Then there's this ominous cavern and even a creepy underground sewer area. They haven't shown much, but from what's here we can see that we'll be fighting in varied locations. In the DuskBloods, we will have at least 12 playable character classes to choose from. We have seen quite a few of these characters in the trailer, but not all of them yet. Let's take a look at who the obvious playable characters are that have been revealed so far. First we have the white-haired guy. He looks and moves like Dante from the Devil May Cry series, as he shoots while slowly floating down from up above. He's most likely the guy we see sitting in the chair at the beginning of the trailer. Here it is brightened up. It seems like he is dead or out of it, with what looks like a whiskey bottle in his hand. He's just missing the fancy gold trimmed cape he wears, along with his gold weapon. The lady that touches his hand speaks about reviving him at the beginning. The blood marking on his hand is the wheel of time that all these characters are bound to, and blood fade. For melee, we can see he's wielding a saber, and for ranged attacks, he has some kind of automatic rifle. Just look at how high he can jump. Obviously, there's no fall damage to worry about here. Fighting while flying through the air like this sounds exhilarating. I would imagine, as well as shooting, it will have some kind of melee air attack. Here we have the Crumbling Gold Man. This character looks really badass. Again, with gold, there seems to be quite a bit of gold in the art design. Why do I call him the Crumbling Gold Man? Well, if you take a closer look, the gold is crumbling off of him, and there are some type of bugs crawling all over him. For melee weapons, he has what looks like golden spikes, and for ranged, he has a long-range rifle, maybe a sniper. Here we can see him with a summon character. We'll be looking at that in a hot minute. Next, we have the Golden Mosquito. Now this character is definitely a heavy armored type character that can apparently jet across the map. I wonder what kind of limit they have on the jetpack. We're calling this guy the Golden Mosquito because he has a mosquito-like sucker, which is how I presume he'll be sucking energy with. For melee attacks, it looks like some kind of poker, which also looks a lot like a mosquito stinger or poker. For ranged attacks, it looks like the mosquito is holding some weird snake pipe looking thing over his shoulder. I'm guessing it's some kind of rocket launcher. The projectile looks spiky too. Remember this fancy old man with the cane? Also displaying a lot of gold trim? This is the Dino Man. For melee, he seems to be using the cane, which has a blade on the end that almost looks like a fencing sword. For ranged attacks, I can't really make out anything, so that's still a mystery. His special attack transformation is another what the fuck moment in this trailer. He's the player that turns into a dinosaur of all things. Looks pretty OP, but it must have some limit to it. The player he's eating is the next playable character we'll be looking at. Here's the Blue Martial Artist. I really like the varied character designs that comes from taking place throughout the world and at different time periods in history. This location with the waterfall kind of looks Asian inspired. In the trailer, this character can be seen in some train station warehouse, doing a quick flowing melee combo using a blue ring blade. We don't know what the martial artist's range attack will be yet, but it's possible that they could throw the blade like a boomerang or something. Again, way up in the air from a super jump. Aerial battle is definitely a thing here. Magic Blue Ball Boy is next. Again, a very different looking design from the other character. This is the closest to a mage character we've seen so far. This character has a blue magical orb and uses it as a ranged attack as seen here. This big smiley moon head has similar markings as the ones on the blue magical orb. Maybe this is some kind of event related to this character? The moon seems to have quite the prominence in this game. This magical slam attack definitely does the job. Wonder how this works when you have multiple enemies and other players caught up in this attack. Last but not least, we have Long Blade Leatherman. This guy looks like a badass as well, all clad in tight shiny leather. He wields a very long katana-like blade for melee, and has a handgun as a ranged weapon. As you can see here, it's holstered at his waist. Him flying through the air here with the long blade is more evidence that there will be air melee attacks. Finally, here he is summoning a partner character. It looks like these summon characters are not locked to any one character and can be used by anyone. Here, the same summon lady with the dual blades can be seen accompanying the Crumbling Gold Man. I wonder how many summon types there will be to choose from, and if they are with you from the start of the match or found in the world map through some item. Also, it looks like the summon character has only one weapon type for melee, being the dual blades. Here in this screenshot, the white-haired man can be seen with what looks like another summon character dressed in a similar green and gold colored garb that the dual blade summon lady was wearing. Looks like she has only one weapon as well, this one looking like a long-barreled handgun. Maybe they're from the same kind of covenant? I'm excited to find out more. There were some other characters in the trailer that at this point I can't say if they are enemies or playable characters or something else. First we have a horned blue demon-like character doing a martial arts pose with what looks like a massive blade on his back. He's giving me boss character vibes, but it's always possible he could be a playable character. Him not having a visible ranged weapon casts some doubt on that though. Then we have the singing man with a noose around his neck, who also looks like he could be a boss character. Maybe there's NPCs on the map too that you can interact with. The chain on his wrist and the noose around his neck make me think he's an escaped prisoner. This next one is very interesting. We have another white-haired character with a white painted face riding some kind of monster through the streets. Could this be a boss or a playable character? If it's the latter, then that would mean that we will have mounts. But nothing in the interview or the other media shows that this is a thing in the game. We already have increased superhuman abilities to traverse the world, so I'm thinking that it's a special enemy or boss, but who knows? Next, let's take a look at what are definitely some enemies and bosses in the game. So far, the only enemy type we have seen are these white cloaked dead men. They have weapons like machetes, torches, and then there's the bigger ones that use their fists. For bosses, first we have this lovely frog monster with titties, a split tongue, and a toothy grit. From this image, it looks pretty massive and creepy. This scene here is the most Souls-like bit of gameplay we saw. We have this lichen beast wielding a huge black axe and holding some poor soul in the air. You can see the white-haired man block this attack, which creates a red shield made up of what I'm guessing is blood. Players will be teaming up to take on these bosses together, which Miyazaki says are really challenging and rewarding. Finally, we save the best for last. We present the Great Pajama Man. This guy has peak boss energy, and let's just say, an interesting design. He has an armored metal cap on his head, so I guess he doesn't need to see you like Millennia from Elden Ring. He is wielding a massive axe, and with one hand easily. Could this actually be a playable character? I don't see any ranged weapon on him, but like the other characters, you can't be too sure just yet. My money's on him being a boss. We probably won't see more of the DuskBloods until the Game Awards. I could see a big blowout trailer there. Hope it's sooner, as there's so many questions we still need to be answered. I wonder, how are they going to balance 8 players with 8 summoned partners? Specials, magic, melee, gunplay, and the increased mobility. There's also the enemies and bosses to deal with. I'm excited to find out more. Please like and subscribe for more DuskBloods content in the future.
We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Tears will flow for one, and one alone.